With the Big Ten wrestling season set to begin on January 15th, how do the teams stack up? Let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans? My name's Josiah, and welcome to the Fanco Wrestling YouTube channel and this edition of Big Ten Tuesday, where I take on a topic in the Big Ten every week. Now, this week's Big Ten Tuesday is exciting because I'm looking at the Fanco Wrestling Big Ten rankings. That's right, I'm going to go through the Big Ten teams and how I believe they should be ranked. And there are some discrepancies between me, Win Magazine, Flow Wrestling, Track, all the other news sites. I have my own opinion on how things turn out, and we'll see how exactly that stacks out once these teams actually wrestle each other. Obviously, you know, rankings are just fun. They don't really mean a crazy ton before the teams actually get into it, but I thought it'd be fun to dive into it in this week's topic. And before we get to the bottom half, the 11 through 14 range, I have to give a special shout out to the anonymous subscriber who pitched in and bought this new microphone, which I couldn't be making this video without this microphone. I know the anonymous donor did not want to be thanked, but it's something from the bottom of my heart. I just have to say thank you. And for the great channel members who continuously support this channel and get some great perks in return, such as the Fanco Fanatics, the elite channel members, get this cool new exclusive Fanco Wrestling t-shirt, which I have on right now. And with that said, let's get into these rankings. Now, the bottom four teams, these are the few teams at the bottom where, you know, with 14 teams, you have to have a couple teams who aren't in the top 10. And these are those teams. So Maryland, while they have a great recruiting class incoming, a strong recruiting class, and the head coach is continuously or starting to really turn that program in a positive way, in a good light. I think we're going to see good things for them in the future. You know, coming off of some unfortunate, just not a great 2020 season, I think we can see some changes in this upcoming season. But, you know, with them being able to potentially compete against a team like Indiana, it is in the cards, it's in the possibility. But then we have Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin is a team that has now lost Seth Gross. He's still training. They're still helping the guys out there. But these do still have Evan Wick, Trent Hilger. They still have a strong lineup. It's just not quite as strong as these other few teams that are in there, such as a Northwestern. A Northwestern, now who has lost Sebastian Rivera, who is transferred now to Rutgers, still has Ryan Deacon, who is a top contender at his weight and is going to be a top contender at 157 pounds. And I'm also pumped to see Yaya Thomas at 149 and a tough Lucas Davison. They have a strong lineup. They're just not quite ready to crack into that top 10. Now, these top 10, I'm kind of basing the rankings off of a few things. Their 2020 record, which you have to look at a little bit. It has to mean something, just past records, past how they've done last season, depending on, you know, who's returning to the lineup. And that's the other thing, is loss, gain. How many guys did they lose? How many guys did they gain? That's something important to note as well as how many guys are in the top 25 in each of these lineups. And the first team that we have to talk about is Illinois. At the number 10 spot is Illinois, who had a 10-4 record last year and has 5 guys in the top 25. So half the lineup in the top 25. Now, this team, Illinois, finished top 20 last year with solid wins in a solid season, with wins over Mizzou, Michigan, Northwestern, and Rutgers. Now, Michigan last year, they weren't quite as strong as this year, and Michigan has a very strong team this year, but you know, Michigan had some of those red shirts that were out, but we'll get to them in a little bit. But as far as Illinois is concerned, the Broncos are back. Dan and Zach at 65 and 185 pounds. Both of these guys are top 10 guys, as well as somebody who I'm super excited to watch this upcoming season is Mikey Carr, who's a top 10 contender at 149 pounds. So he is a top 10 guy, and with those guys, I think that we can see Illinois do some pretty impressive things like they did last year. Now, as far as Michigan State at the number 9 spot is concerned, they have a great returner in Rayvon Foley. Now, as we know, there are certain teams who are unfortunately now out of the rankings because the EIWA, the Ivy Leagues, are not competing this season due to COVID-19 protocols, procedures, all that, unfortunately. So with that being said, Rayvon Foley actually bumped up quite a few spots. Now he's returning back into the lineup after a redshirt year, previously an All-American, and because of the guys who were in Ivy Leagues, talking about Vito Rujao and Pat Glory, at 125 pounds. Now, Rayvon Foley's coming in as the number 3 ranked guy in the country for Michigan State, which is going to be impressive. Now, as for other than Rayvon Foley, Michigan State also has Cam Caffey, who's bumping up to 197 pounds. And after a great 2020 season at 184, I'm interested to see how he does. I think he can definitely pose a threat at 197. And with these guys, as well as 3 other guys who are ranked in the top 25, I think the Michigan State has a chance to turn their record around. They had an 8-10 record last year. I think they can have a winning season this year and really do a great job. Next, at the number 8 spot, you may know Gable Steveson here as the big gun in the lineup. Gable Steveson as the top dog, who's just done well on the freestyle circuit in this offseason with recent wins. And I think that he's going to be great for Minnesota. But how much is he going to wrestle this season? Because we know that he's training for the Olympic trials. So how much is he going to be wrestling? Last season we saw certain guys who didn't compete in every single match because they were focusing on freestyle. And we'll see how that translates and seeing how much Gable was in the lineup. Obviously, he's going to be competing in the big duels, or at least we assume so. But it's just a question that I do ask. Now, last year, Minnesota, their best win of the season came over Wisconsin, but they did lose to the kind of less than average Michigan team last year, so that doesn't really bode well for them. Now, they do also have another strong gun in their lineup in number 5, Brayton Lee. Now, with these, they actually have 6 top 25 guys, so think about that for a little bit. With Brayton Lee as one of those top 6, as well as Gable Steveson. Brayton Lee is currently ranked number 5 in the flow rankings at 149 pounds. And was competitive last year, and I believe he was even ranked number 1 at one point last season. And with the craziness that happened on 149 with Sammy Sasso and Pat Lugo and everything going on there. So Brayton Lee is another guy to have your eyes out for in this upcoming season, and that's why Minnesota is at that number 8 spot. Now, as we go on here, this is where there are some discrepancies between a couple of the rankings that I've seen. Now, this is something where I could flip-flop, and it depends on a couple things, especially this number 6 and 7 spot. My top 5 are pretty darn set in stone. There may be something that I get to, and you can question that, but my top 5 are set in stone. But as far as this number 6 and number 7, first at number 7, we have Purdue. Purdue had a 12-5 record last year, has a great incoming freshman class. I mean, I'm interested to see how many of those guys actually get into the lineup, because there are 6 top 25 guys that Purdue has ranked right now, and they were a top 15 team in 2020. So coming into this season with guys like top 5 Devin Schroeder at 125 pounds, who's yet to All-American, but I think has this is his year to do it, making the Big Ten finals. I think we're going to see him do great things. Maybe not be able to beat Spencer Lee, maybe pull something off, but, I think he's a solid wrestler and a contender. They also have a couple other guys like Kendall Coleman at 157 pounds, who I'm excited to see this season as well compete. I mean, they just have a team of solid wrestlers from top to bottom. I don't think they have any, big, crazy standouts like Gable Steveson in Minnesota, but I think that their team is just solid from top to bottom. Now, like I said, I think I could have switched potentially number 6 and number 7. Now, Purdue, while they have 6 top 25 guys, the number 6 team that I have is Rutgers, who has 4 top 25 guys. And you may be wondering why that is. Also, because Rutgers had less of a... They had a worse record last year than Purdue. Purdue was 12-5 last year. Rutgers was 10-7. So very interesting questions. I think Rutgers also is a very solid lineup from top to bottom, and I think really a lot of it comes down to potential as well. I think that has to play some part, at least a little fraction of a part is potential, depending on who the freshmen are that come in, who the freshmen are that start, who he knows in the lineup. With Nick Suriano poised to return, with Sammy Alvarez at 133, Sebastian Rivera transferring in at 141. I mean, who is actually now the number 1 ranked guy now that Yanni's not wrestling this season. Sebastian Rivera is now the number 1 ranked guy at 141, which I don't think he should be. I think that's another conversation for another time with Ironman and Nick Lee. But anyways, I digress. Rutgers has a amazing 1-2-3 punch. I talked about this months ago, how good their 1-2-3 punch was going to be, and I think it's going to be there. Now, with other guys who can fit into the lineup, like Jojo Aragona, Van Brill, Volok, Poznanski, I mean, with even Billy Janser at 184, they have a solid team. And now, if you want to say they shouldn't be higher than Purdue, okay, but I don't think that they can quite yet crack that top 5. I know Jersey guys, go ahead, comment below, let me know why you're mad at me. That's totally cool to have some differences in opinions there. But now that brings us to our number 5, our top 5, and first up is Ohio State. Ohio State, I believe, is a top 5 team in the Big Ten. They're continuously competing for Big Ten trophies, for NCAA titles, and their team, you don't count out. They were 10-4 last year. Unfortunately, they did have losses to Penn State, to Iowa, Nebraska, and Virginia Tech was probably their worst loss, although it didn't turn out to be so bad because Virginia Tech was a darn solid team, and the ACC was just absolutely bonkers last year. I mean, it was so great, and I hope we see great things this year, but Ohio State is just, don't ever count them out. Now, they are losing Luke Pletcher, they are losing Colin Moore, but they still have great guys like Karchin Karchula, who could have a big jump at 165. He's currently in the top 15. He already beat Mekhi Lewis at the RTC Cup over the summer. Freestyle, mind you, but still, he did beat him. We have number 4, Caleb Romero, returning to 174 pounds, and Rocky Jordan, who's a top 10 guy at 184. With Tate Orndorff, who transferred in the offseason at 285 pounds. And then, let's not forget about Anthony Echemendia, as well as Sammy Sasso, who's a number 1 guy at 149 pounds. Ohio State has some contenders to not just be All-Americans, but national champions. And with 7 guys ranked in the top 25 and more poised to crack that top 10, Ohio State is a team to watch out for. Now, that brings us to Ohio State's arch rival, their nemesis, as I like to put it, is Penn State. My team, Penn State. Now, Penn State fans, why is Penn State so low? Why is Penn State so low on this list? Or why aren't they at number 2? Why aren't they at number 1? Okay, let's wait a second and get to that. So Penn State has 9 guys right now in the top 25, which is some of the most. And actually, these top 4 teams are still competitive with those 9 guys. They had a 12-2 record last year. Of course, we know the unfortunate losses to Arizona State and Iowa just turned the season around, unfortunately, but still very competitive dual meets. But I think the thing here is, even though they're losing the Vincenzo Josephs, the Mark Halls, they're losing some, great guys, I think there's still a lot to be said about this team. We still have new guys coming in, Joe Lee, Carter Sirachi, Michael Beard, Greg Kirkfleet, at heavyweight, who have yet to prove themselves. They've yet to prove themselves, and although some of these guys are actually ranked, we don't know where they should be in the lineup, in the rankings. Like, we can take guesses, but I don't know exactly where they should be. As far as returners, RBY's back in the lineup, who's a top 3 guy. Nick Lee, a top 3 guy. As well as Jared Verclaren's back in the lineup, and Aaron Brooks, who is a top 5 guy as well. I mean, this is just a solid lineup of guys. I don't think they're quite ready to make the leap over the next couple teams, though. As far as right now in the season, in the preseason, it's the preseason. I don't think we can put them above them because of the potential. I mentioned potential earlier, and while they do have the potential, they don't necessarily have the merits right now to have that. So they don't have the merits as a team like Michigan has. Michigan, who was 7-6 last year, with a lot of their guys taking Olympic red shirts, but now those guys are back. with Stephon Micic, with Miles Amin, with Logan Massa, and Mason Paris now. I mean, this lineup is just ridiculous. And seeing what the Cliff Keen Wrestling Club did at the RTC Cup and seeing the potential of these guys, Alec Pantelli, I mean, this is a stacked lineup. Now, I've seen Michigan at the number 2 spot in a couple different places, and that's fair. That is fair to put them at the number 2 spot. I don't think they're quite a number 1 team yet, but they are number 1 in the Big Ten East. I think they are number 1 in the Big Ten East as far as that division. But listen, with Stephon Micic returning for his 37th season, these other guys returning for their 6th or 7th years, this is their year to do something great. Mason Paris is out for vengeance. With 8 guys ranked in the top 25, Michigan is going to pull out some amazing things. Now, who are the top 2 teams? I may as well just put them up right now because you're going to know by the time I say the next one. Nebraska is number 2 and Iowa's number 1. Now, what I did for a lot of these teams is I looked at Nebraska and Michigan. I compared their lineups and said, okay, well, Michigan may be able to get a win at 125, but Nebraska wins at 133, et cetera, and kind of went through the lineup and looked at the toss-ups, look who I thought where the dual meets could end up. Obviously, lots of things could change, but this is kind of where I had it. Nebraska and Michigan, I had a real tough time, but because Nebraska has 9 top 25 guys, and they're extremely solid from top to bottom, they had a better record last year, and they still have, all their guys are essentially returning. They have legitimate title contenders, not that Michigan doesn't, they obviously do, but with legitimate title contenders like Mikey Labriola, Taylor Venz, Schultz, I mean, oh my goodness. And then you want to talk about Ridge Lovett, Chad Redd. All of these guys are top 10 guys. Peyton Robb. I mean, all these guys are essentially top 10 guys. And the only team that really may have more, or that does have more, is Iowa. But Nebraska, with, like I said, Nebraska, well, Flo actually has them real low. They even have them below Penn State, which I can't agree with. Maybe because Penn State beat them last year, okay, but it was still a close duel, and we have to look at what happened here. But that's why Nebraska is number 2, and Iowa is obviously the number 1. I mean, I really don't think there's anybody who can argue that Iowa should not be the number 1 team right now. With 10 guys ranked in the top 10, with an undefeated record last year, 13-0, coming in. The only guy they lost is Pat Lugo at 149, who's easily able to, I shouldn't say easily able to be, transferred out or picked up with Max Murin and Jaden Ironman. It's not an easy loss in Pat Lugo, but it's a nice transition with some great new guys in at 41 and 49. Oh my goodness. Jaden Ironman. You want to talk about him? I mean, he's going to be a title contender. Austin DeSanto at 33. Spencer Lee at 125. From bottom to top, there is no team that has a more solid lineup. Are there teams that I think could upset them? Yeah. I do. I think that there could be definitely some upsets to brewing, and I think we will see that. But as far as these teams are concerned, I think that Iowa is the clear number 1, and these are your Big Ten rankings coming into the 2021 preseason. Please let me know, what do you think? Do you think my rankings are wrong? Which teams would you switch out? And I really want to hear your thoughts on all of the rankings and the process. Anyways, I'm looking forward to the Big Ten season. I'm looking forward to the 2021 wrestling season. It can't come soon enough. Anyways, guys, I will talk to you soon.